Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video I am going to be talking about and filling up the Art Toolkit Folio palette. You may have seen in another video I have talked about this Art Toolkit palette. This is the Pocket palette and I have used this a lot. I've refilled it, even like some of the pans I did in a vlog. And I have loved it. It's so portable. You can really arrange it to how you want to configure it, and it's easy to move around because the base of all of these is magnetic, and so these just pop right in. Not only do they have different sizes of watercolor or paint pans, they also have different sizes of mixing wells. So I like this one, but they also have this large size. And if you like a lot of individual mixing wells, then you can get these small square ones. They also have the same size in a watercolor pan as well. So you could just use these larger pans, but because I wanted more colors, this is the kind of the configuration that I came up with. So today I kind of have an idea of what colors I want to put in here, but I thought that I would just fill it up and then swatch out the colors that I decide. It is very tough deciding on watercolors, and I probably wish I had a better organizational system. I just use these stackable clear containers that I have had for a while, and I keep my gouache and all of my watercolors in here. You can probably tell that I love Schmincke colors. I've tried a lot, and if anybody's interested in a watercolor swatching video, I've thought about swatching out all of my Schmincke colors. So I have these arranged in, these are Schmincke colors, and these are just all of my other brands like Winsor & Newton. I love, there's some Holbein colors that I really like, and Daniel Smith, and then I recently got a Michael Harding color. It's this Viridian, so I've been using the Holbein version, but once that's out I might switch to this because it's a bit cheaper. So this is actually going to be a lot harder than what I thought. I thought I kind of had everything planned out for what colors I was thinking, but as you can see, I can't fit all of these colors in. I think I have 16 spaces. Oh, okay, I have 17 spots, so that's a little bit more than I thought. I'm going to go ahead and fill up this palette, and I will check in after that. So I finished filling up the palette, and it can definitely be a messy process. I highly recommend using Q-tips. It just makes the process easier because you can mix with them, and then you don't contaminate your different colors. It's not the end of the world. I'm not too worried if colors get contaminated because I'm pretty messy with my palette anyways. But I think what I'll do now is I'm going to make a little swatch sheet for all the colors and then swatch them out so that you can see what colors I chose, and then give you an idea of what kind of colors this can mix. So I made this little sheet that will fit into here. Well, if I trim it down just a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and swatch out all the colors so that way I know what color is what. All right. So the first color is pure yellow. It just makes the nicest greens. It's kind of midway through a warm and a cool yellow. So if you don't have a lot of space in your palette, it's a great medium yellow. So the next color, I'm going to switch brushes here actually. The next color is Schmincke Yellow Ochre. These colors dry so fast when it's hot out. I just need to try not to have them bleed together. I'm trying to be and there we go. Yeah, I'm trying to be organized and methodical with this approach, and I feel like that's just not, when I'm making art, I'm not as good at that. So we're trying over here. Let's try this again. So this is Yellow Ochre, the Schmincke Yellow Ochre. And I had raw sienna in my pocket palette, but I decided to put yellow ochre in this time just because I want to play with more opaque colors. And then a new color to me is Schmincke Naples Yellow Reddish. And I've used this before, but not really in any painting sense. So it'll be interesting to experiment, especially with landscapes. I thought it might be kind of an interesting complement to greens. And I also have, it's also a more opaque color too, so just try that out. And then I chose Potter's Pink. A lot of pink colors, but this is the Schmincke one, and this is just granulating and makes really interesting mixes, especially with yellow or yellow ochre. And I'd be curious, because I have a couple granulating colors in this palette, how they will work together. And then next up is Daniel Smith Pyryl Scarlet. If I had a smaller pan like these two, I probably would have put it in a smaller one because I don't use it. It's just such a potent color. You don't really need that much of it, but I just decided I'd rather have it because this is going to be a more versatile palette. I think I won't just use it for landscapes, but you can see how pigmented it is. It makes really nice muted purples with French ultramarine. I just love it so much. And then we have the Zoisite, Daniel Smith Zoisite Genuine. And this is another granulating color that I honestly have not used. I've swatched it out, So it's a very kind of grayish dark green color, but I'm really intrigued to use it more. There's another YouTuber who I love her videos, is Helen Cryer, and she uses this green a lot, and she inspired me to, ooh, there's a fly buzzing around. She inspired me to try this out because I've had it for a while and it's just been sitting in my cabinet. So I thought, why not? This is the perfect excuse to force myself to use it. So then the next color is Winsor & Newton Permanent Rose. And this is going to be my kind of cooler red in place of my usual quinacridone magenta. This is a very bright red, and it's really great for flowers or skin tones. I think I like it for skin tones a little bit better than quinacridone magenta, just because it's slightly warmer. And then next up is my very favorite green, well, it's not really a mixed green, it's just, it's cobalt green pure from Schmincke. I think Winsor & Newton has one, cobalt green. But, so this is a very opaque color. It's slightly granulating. It's not extremely granulating like Potter's Pink or Zoisite Genuine, but when you put it in mixes, you'll definitely be able to notice it a bit more. But I just love the color. There's something about it that just feels almost nostalgic to me. I don't really know what it is about the color, but I just really love it. And you can warm it up, you can cool it down. There's lots of versatility. And then up next is Cobalt Turquoise, and this is another Schmincke color. I was using the Winsor & Newton Cobalt Turquoise, but I ran out, so I decided to try this one. And I would say this one I might like better. The Winsor & Newton one is slightly more green leaning, and this one I think might just make cleaner mixes. I have a lot of granulating colors because this color is also granulating, but it's just really vibrant, and there's not really any color that replicates this. Like, you can't really mix a color like this, so it's just really nice to have in your palette. And then honestly, the number one color that I was missing in my pocket palette that I didn't include and that I had to put in this one is cerulean blue. I think I've realized how much, I've always had it in my palette, but it's kind of like not a very exciting color because it's such a classic example of a cool blue. It can also be kind of muddy in mixes sometimes, but I'm just realizing how much I rely on it, especially with greens and making lighter greens. And my favorite is the Winsor & Newton one. That's the one I've always been using since I started painting watercolors, so I had to include that one in here. The next blue is Cobalt Blue Light, and this is Schmincke. I've used the Winsor & Newton one as well, and they're about the same. But it's just really nice to have varying blues that you can use depending on how light you want, if you want to darken up a green, cool a green down. Obviously, these are all fairly cooler greens. The cobalt, comparatively to these, is definitely warmer. But to have as my warmest blue, I have Daniel Smith French Ultramarine. And again, a granulating color, but this just makes the most beautiful purples, most beautiful shadow colors. So it's just a nice compliment. I just always feel like I'm somebody, I'd say blue watercolors are some of my favorites. And having multiple blues can just, especially when you're mixing greens, like for me, I think that yellows are important, but blues to me are almost even more so. So those are my 4 blues. I think if I had more space, I would have put Delft Blue or Payne's Gray or Sodalite Genuine to really darken up colors. But I have Burnt Umber, and you can use that with French Ultramarine or Cobalt Blue, and that'll make a really nice dark color. So next up I have Holbein Lavender, and this is an opaque color. And this one I had in my, this and the French Ultramarine I had in my pocket palette. And so I've been able to get more familiar with them. And this just makes really nice mixes. I was kind of debating whether or not to include this, but I think that I will use it a lot in generally. And when I'm trying to push colors, this is definitely a go-to. Or push things into the background. This is a great color for that. So the white is a gouache. I think if you want to make something more opaque, so I'll just swatch it out, even though you're not really going to be able to see anything. But I know that some people, you know, are maybe more watercolor purists and believe that it should all be transparent. You shouldn't use any white gouache or anything on top of it, but I'm very much a mixed media artist in a lot of senses, and having that white gouache just like offers more versatility to what you're painting, and I've definitely missed it in my pocket palette, so I decided to include it. The next color is another discovery of mine in the past couple months, which is Daniel Smith's Lunar Earth. This is a very granulating color. If any of you have tried like Lunar Blue, it just makes such, like this with French Ultramarine is the coolest color. Also, this color mixed with any granulating green like Viridian, which I didn't include on my palette, but I feel like with Zozite Genuine or the Cobalt Green will be really interesting. It just adds texture, even if you just like drop it in, if you don't even mix it, and while your paint is wet, you just drop it in. It is such a gorgeous textural element to your paintings, and I really love it. So the next up I have Burnt Umber, and this is Schmincke's Burnt Umber. It just is kind of a nice middle of the road. Like it's not super warm like some other burnt umbers I've seen. It just feels very, I don't know, like classic to me. I was looking at the Winsor & Newton one because Schmincke again is like more expensive, but I feel like they have several mixes. It's a mix of colors, and so this is just a single pigment, I believe, but it's just so warm and versatile, and you can make darker colors with like your French Ultramarine and all of that. And then finally, I have Burnt Sienna. This is Winsor & Newton. It's definitely my favorite. I've also tried the Schmincke one, but again, that one's a mix. So, I mean, I like it, but the Winsor & Newton is just the one I started using, and I just feel like I'll always kind of come back to. So there's just some of those, I don't know if you all have like a comfort color or comfort brand, comfort colors. I definitely feel like I do, and there's certain colors where I just couldn't live without, and Winsor & Newton's Burnt Sienna is definitely one of them. So these are my colors. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm gonna label them. And I think what I'll do is with the primaries that I have, I'm gonna mix some colors to kind of show you what colors you can mix with this. So I thought I would do a color wheel with some of the colors so you can get a sense of what these mixes can make. So let's see, so I've got my primary red, which is, got the Perylene or Pyrrole Scarlet. And then, so since that's a warmer red, we can choose a warmer blue. Oops. French Ultramarine. And then for the yellow, obviously, we could do pure yellow. And then if you mix them together, you can kind of see what colors they can get. Let's see. Oh, I keep going into the cobalt blue. Okay. So there's that. And then for greens, can make a nice warm kind of olivey green. And then the purples you can make with these colors are so nice. They're just not super overpowering, and depending obviously on how much blue you add in, it can make really nice shadow colors. And then, say we want to do a cooler mixes, we can use the Permanent Rose as our red. We could use, I'll just stick with the pure yellow here. And this orange obviously is going to be a bit different. And then let's do cerulean. You can see the colors are already drying on here. It's kind of crazy. And see what kind of, this purple is going to be much different. I love making purples with cerulean as well. This is going to be a much muddier purple than with a cooler red. And then let's make a green. A very vibrant green here. But you can see how changing these things can, you can really get so many combinations. Even if you just have a cool warm of each primary color, you can make such an extensive range of colors. And I did this with my last palette, but I showed what kind of greens you can make. And so let's see here. I wanted to first swatch out my beloved cobalt green pure. And you can see the sort of granulation you can get. But say you want it to be a little darker, you could add in a little bit of cobalt blue. And you can get a darker kind of green. Or if you want it to be a little more warm leaning, you could add some yellow ochre. Or, let's see here, You could add even some red to dull it down a little bit and make a brown or a gray. So that's cobalt green with the pyrrole red, pyrrole scarlet. That's a really cool color, actually. I'm also curious to try out this Zozite Genuine and what kind of colors that can mix. Let's see. So I'm just gonna put some down and show you too, like how granulating it can be. It's a pretty gray green, so I'm gonna experiment by adding some of this cobalt turquoise to it, and what kind of, I would imagine it kind of dulls colors a little. I mean, even that is a very moody kind of color. I wonder if you could use that in the sky to make when you have like stormier clouds. But say I wanted to add in a bit of pure yellow to it. Could I make a, oh, interesting. It kind of acts like almost a black. I mean, it essentially is almost a black color. Let's see, I want to mix this with the lunar earth and see what kind of crazy granulation we can get with it. Ooh, I like that. Even, it's crazy, you can see on the palette. Let's see. Even the separation there on the palette, all the pigment separating out, you can just watch it right before your eyes. It's crazy. I'm gonna add a little bit into the top. Oops, sorry, that was not in focus. Okay, let's see here. Get some Potter's Pink. I think too with granulating colors, you really just have to wait and see until once they're dry, because it's hard to get, oops, that was a lot, an accurate kind of idea of what they're gonna, I mean with like all watercolors really, but with granulating colors in particular, you don't get the full effect until they're dry. Okay, I'm gonna get some French ultramarine and I'm gonna add this in down here and see what happens. Ooh, and last thing, I'm kind of going crazy, but the lunar red, so you can see what it looks like. So here is what the colors look like with the mixes. I'm really liking what's going on here, honestly. But I'll just have to try out this palette really and take it out with me, see what I like. I think what's interesting is right off the bat, and when I'm looking at these swatches, there's not a lot of super bright colors. I picked some maybe more muted colors, which is a bit different maybe than what I've done. Like there's a couple colors that stand out a lot. But you know, I'll report back in a bit to see, you know, what I would change, if I would swap out any colors, because I might also order some more of these small pans so that I can fit more colors in. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. Next week's video is going to be in artist vlog. I feel like it's been a couple weeks since I've posted one of those. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you get into something creative today, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.